gadget editor. Now the gadget editor is a very simple editor. All it is, it just allows you to write the XML for a gadget application. It's not an open social application, it's actually a web application. And it's also happens to be running on Google App Engine. So Google App Engine is basically serving up this application. So here's the application itself. If I wanted to, I can create a brand new specification for an application. So there's my spec. Or I can also save some applications. So I can take this simple gadget right here, which happens to do similar stuff. And I can then click on this link and then access the same source code if I wanted to, and then place it into my Dev.Square environment. Okay? Pretty straightforward.
게스트 에디터는 이건 이제 그 앱 엔진을 이용해서 만들었고요. 이런 식으로 웹상에서 편집을 할 수 있고 그 소스 코드들도 역시 가져다 마찬가지로 사용할 수 있습니다.
And then finally, this is a very powerful tool, OSDE, or the Open Social Development Environment. And this is the Eclipse plugin. How many people here have used Eclipse and are comfortable with Eclipse?
네, 이클립스를 사용해 보신 분 있으신가요?
Okay, so a couple of you. Okay, that's good. Actually, a fair amount. So as I mentioned before, OSDE allows you to build open social applications entirely on your own. So you don't even need a live container. So this is handy if you want to just prototype something quickly, or if you don't have access to the internet, like if you're on a plane, you can still develop applications. Not only can you build JavaScript applications, but you can also build server-side applications, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail as we go on. So let's go ahead and take a look.
네, OSDE 같은 경우에는 자체적으로 이제 서버까지 구축을 하실 수가 있기 때문에 여러분 인터넷을 활용할 수 없는 환경에서도 이 OSDE를 이용을 하시면은 서버상의 코딩과 클라이언트상의 코딩을 다 하실 수가 있습니다.
And I should say, before getting started, there's an open source project called the Open Social Development Project, and it's hosted on Google Code. You can actually just type in the search Open Social Development Environment, and you should be able to find this fairly easily. I also have the link available as well. But once you download this, there's step-by-step instructions on how to update your Eclipse environment to be able to contain this particular plugin. And once you install the plugin, you're able to build open social applications very quickly. So as he translates, I'm going to start building an application, and then when he's finished, I'll explain to you what I am in the process of building. Okay?
이 사이트는 이제 오픈 디벨롭먼트 엔바이러먼트를 치시면 이제 찾으실 수 있을 거고, 아직 좋은 그런 링크를 아직 만들지 못했다고 하는데, 이제 거기 가시면 그 페이지에 가시면 이 플러그인을 어떻게 설치하실 수가 있는지 스텝 바이 스텝으로 설명이 되어 있고, 일단은 그 플러그인을 설치를 하셨다는 가정하에서 계속 설명을 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, so I've started a new wizard. I'm creating a new project. OSDE fun. And I can just enter in a few things. Now here, as you notice, I can even specify what features of Open Social, or these specifically are gadget features, but I can specify which ones I want and then have that translated. I think for now, Open Social version 0.8 is good enough. And I will create a gadget application which will view in the canvas view. It's a type HTML. I'm also going to generate sample code. So I can fetch persons and friend data, I can post an activity, I can share data with friends. So this is the type of application I'm going to create. I'll click finish.
예, 여러분들이 이제 많이 보셨던 그런 이 아이디 설정처럼 이렇게 몇 가지 이제 설정만 통해서 이렇게 쉽게 소스들을 얻을 수가 있습니다.
So here's my application. I can see the features that are installed. I can essentially edit the document using this environment here, or I can flip through and change the content or the locale. So if I wanted to add whatever, Korean, if I wanted to, it's very easy to, since it's supported in all languages. User preferences, and finally, I can edit the source directly. So this is basically the gadget code directly that I got translated for me. So that's great. I have the code, but now what if I want to test it and run it? So the cool thing is that it's integrated with it's called the Apache Shindig server, which is the open social reference implementation. So I can click start, and that will launch an internal container inside of Eclipse.
예, 지금 이 이클립스 안에 이제 신딕 서버가 같이 내장이 돼 있어서 저렇게 로컬에서 이 오픈 소셜 서버를 동작을 시키고 그 서버를 통해서 클라이언트를 테스트해 볼 수가 있습니다.
Okay, and so now that the server is running, I can even see what the database has. So I have some users. I can create friend relationships in my test database if I wanted to. And now when I run the application, so if I run this application, it'll allow me to select a few things. So let's select some of the data as John Doe, and then I'll just click OK. And now we are running the application inside of Eclipse. I can click on the button to execute the fetch friends, which is part of the sample application. I can say, I can post activities, share data, and all that stuff. So I'm actually running entirely within Eclipse, an open social application.
예, 인직에 들어있는 이 데이터베이스 자체를 편집하실 수가 있고 또 이 처음 이제 애플리케이션을 띄울 때 어떤 계정을 통해서 이제 띄울 것이 이런 것들을 설정을 하실 수가 있습니다.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move on. Now let me touch on a little bit more advanced developer topics. So in this case, I'm going to touch on things like performance, dealing with latency issues, but that is an entire set of presentations that I probably really couldn't do justice. So what I'm going to do is provide you some high-level points, and then I'm going to point you to a very useful presentation that we used back in June at the Google I/O Developer Conference. So first of all, the key to understanding about building an application or building an open social application is that each one of these applications is simply just a web application. And so all of the same concepts still apply for making sure that the application performs well and provides like a nice user interface experience.
예, 이번 주제는 대단히 방대한데요. 그 중에 딱 한 가지만 소개를 해드리고자 한다면은 이 I/O 컨퍼런스에서 있었던 내용인데 어떻게 이제 그 속도를 최적화했느냐에 관한 주제입니다.
And so there's some key things that they already recognize, like you can use some very helpful tools such as Firebug, Viceflow on Firefox. On Safari, there's Web Inspector. Internet Explorer has HTTP Watch. So these are very helpful tools for essentially diagnosing your open social applications or web applications in general. Also, it's best because you're dealing with a lot of, for example, HTML, JavaScript, CSS. When you deploy your application to have the best performance, it's best to compact it down to have a nice, efficient stream of data coming through. So there's tools that allow you to compact your code. Finally, there's a technique called image spriting. So this allows you to have like a large, instead of having multiple images, each requiring multiple fetches, it's better to have one larger image and then use CSS, cascading style sheets, to be able to pick and choose different portions of your image and have those render for you on an as-needed basis. So these are some high-level tips that are all contained in this presentation. And I should also point out that there's also some best practices for open social development. So there's like the notion of using batch requests. So instead of doing multiple requests in a social application, if you batch together a whole set of requests and then send one request, that's a much better performing application. And then of course with 0.9 there's some new features that I won't get into right now, but you can learn about it in the presentation here, about essentially taking advantage of some of these new features such as data pipelining and so forth that allow you to have a much better application that performs better.
최적화를 이제 오픈 소셜 최적화를 하는 거는 이제 일반적인 웹 어플리케이션을 최적화하는 것과 대단히 유사하고요. 그래서 이제 여러분들이 이제 기존에 웹 개발을 하시면서 사용을 하셨던 이 파이어버그나 아니면 웹 인스펙터 이러한 툴들을 이용하셔가지고 같은 방법으로 최적화를 하실 수가 있고 또 예를 들면 이제 이미지를 패치를 할 때 이 작은 이미지를 여러 개 가져오는 것보다는 하나로 한 큰 이미지 하나 가져와가지고 잘라서 쓰는 게 더 효율적인 것처럼 마찬가지로 오픈 소셜 리퀘스트도 이 여러 개의 리퀘스트를 보내는 것보다는 가급적이면은 이제 그 리퀘스트를 한 번에 이제 가져와서 이렇게 이제 필요한 곳에 분배를 해서 쓰시면 더 효율적으로 하실 수가 있고요. 또 이러한 이제 지금 설명드린 것들 대단히 이제 하이레벨 수준에서의 그런 설명인데 지금 이제 가리키고 계시는 저 사이트에 가시면은 그러한 것들이 각각 기술적으로 어떻게 됐고 또 베스트 프랙티스는 어떤 것이 있는지 자세하게 이제 설명이 되어 있습니다. 그래서 여러분들이 이제 그렇게 좀 더 나은 기능의 어플리케이션 제공하시고자 한다면 많은 도움이 되실 거라고 생각합니다.
And as you can see, just Google Open Social Apps Speed and Scale, and you'll be able to find this application. Also, I should say, this URL is in the slides, and I'll provide you the web app slides so you can download the slides as well.
예, 이 오픈 소셜 앱